All right, this is chapter Genocide or Myth. Our first question is, smallpox in the blankets is 100% true and has never been questioned as an event that did not happen. Just looking at this, you should know that the answer is false. Just because most of the time things aren't 100% true. Or if nothing else, the never been questioned part is definitely not accurate. All right, white Europeans and white Americans deliberately promoted the spread of this among unsuspecting American Indians to clear them off the land. This should start sounding familiar, and it comes up in almost everything, but I will read it anyway. Genocide or myth, smallpox in the blankets. Out of our regard to them, we gave them 2 blankets and a handkerchief out of the smallpox hospital. I hope it will have the desired effect. William Trent's journal at Fort Pitt. William Trent was saying that he hoped the blankets would distribute the smallpox virus to the American Indians. However, many have been skeptical of his account because the other accounts he wrote about were not considered true. These would have been some of the earliest uses of biological warfare. Either way the story goes, the smallpox epidemic of 1837-38 started a narrative of deliberate genocide against the American Indians by white Europeans and white American settlers. It was called smallpox in the blankets. Smallpox in the blankets is one of the stubborn legends that cannot be proven factual or just a story because there is a limited amount of historical fact and a lot of circumstantial evidence. So, smallpox is this distribution here. So, smallpox. Indians were very robust against diseases. Smallpox was the only disease strong enough to really hurt them. White American settlers and soldiers had murdered large groups of Indians, including women and children, from the 17th century to the end of the 19th century with guns, poison, and clubs, but they didn't use smallpox. American Indians were notoriously vulnerable to contagious diseases. Now, it does help if you know what the definition of vulnerable and robust is. Vulnerable means that you are more likely to get something because of some kind of like weakness, in a sense. Robust means strong and less likely, I guess, in this sense. So this is false. The blankets and clothing the Indians looted from the patients in the hospital and corpses in the cemetery carried back to their villages reportedly touched off a smallpox epidemic. Scientists have theorized that the Asians who migrated over the Bering Land Bridge millennia ago were exposed to such intense cold that the diseased among them died en route. Isolation from Eurasia and Africa insulated North and South America from such contagious killers as bubonic and pneumonic plague, smallpox, and tuberculosis. Archaeologists who have examined natural or man-made Indian mummies have discovered that Indians were susceptible to cancer, arthritis, and rarely tooth decay, but not much else. Those Paleo-Indians not killed in battle or accident or by starvation died of old age. Smallpox had ravaged the mighty Aztecs and Incas at the time of the Spanish conquest and killed more than half the Indians in the Caribbean. But the chain of events behind the one authentic case of deliberate smallpox contamination began in 1757 at the siege of Fort William Henry in present-day upstate New York. Indians allied with the French ignored the terms of surrender worked out between the British and the French. They broke into the garrison hospital and killed and scalped a number of patients, some of them suffering from smallpox. The blankets and clothing the Indians looted from the patients in the hospital and corpses in the cemetery carried back to their villages reportedly touched off a smallpox epidemic. So this means This is true. So number 4 is true. Number 5. No one is sure whether the smallpox outbreak was carried by Kuyes infected blankets or by the clothing Indian warriors had stolen from the estimated 2,000 outlying settlers they had killed or abducted. The French lost the war and left their Indian allies holding the bag. In 1763, Chief Pontiac and his colleagues sparked an uprising against English settlers in the Great Lakes region that had Lord Geoffrey Amherst and the British forces close to despair. The Indians destroyed several of the smaller British forts, but Fort Pitt, present-day Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, held out under the command of Captain Simeon Écuyer, a 22-year veteran Swiss mercenary in the British service. The British kept Écuyer because he spoke German, though his native language was French. Many settlers in Pennsylvania spoke German. Smallpox had broken out among the British garrison, and during a parley, which is a discussion from opposing sides on terms, so during a parley on June 24th, 1763, Écuyer gave the besieging Lenape warriors several items taken from the smallpox patients. We gave them 2 blankets and a handkerchief out of the smallpox hospital. Captain William Trent of the garrison militia wrote in his journal, "I hope it will have the desired effect." And then we have the amazing meme, "Hey, I just met you, and this is crazy, but here's some blankets." And ends not rhyming. Can I have these, Coast? All right. Smallpox did break out among the Indian tribes whose warriors were besieging the fort. 19th century historian Francis Parkman estimated that 60 to 80 Indians in the Ohio Valley died in a localized epidemic, but no one is sure whether the smallpox outbreak was carried by Écuyer's infected blankets or by the clothing Indian warriors had stolen from the estimated 2,000 outlying settlers they had killed or abducted. Écuyer's attempt to spread smallpox among the hostile Indians was in no way disapproved. While Colonel Henry Bouquet was preparing to lead British expedition to relieve Fort Pitt, Amherst sent him a note on June 29th. Could it not be contrived to send smallpox among the disaffected tribes of Indians? We must on this occasion use every stratagem in our power to reduce them. So this makes this last one true. So no one is sure whether smallpox outbreak was carried by Écuyer's infected blankets or the clothing Indian warriors had stolen. And that is it for chapter Genocide or Myth.